Thank you much, Adrian, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Devitt, and like she alluded to, I am a marketing manager here at Kerry. And I have a lot of really great insights to present to you today. And this is kind of our round two of this. So for those who are joining us again, we did the same presentation last year, and due to popular demand, that's why we kind of teamed up with the three different Naturally chapters that we're involved with to bring all of this great content to you all. But to kind of kick things off first, I just kind of want to really ground everyone really quick. Who is Kerry? Why are we putting on this presentation? But in a nutshell, Kerry's an ingredient supplier. And here you can kind of see very, very high level all of the different areas in which we are providing, whether it's taste or nutrition or functionality solutions for any food or beverage product in the industry. And we're really, really focused on kind of delivering authentic taste via flavors. We're very, very invested in kind of our food waste and preservation and shelf life extension technologies. We're very embedded within the proactive health world, so kind of adding functional ingredients to products. And we're also very, very prominent in food service as well. So just very, very high level, we do a lot at Kerry. And because we do a lot every year, we kind of are thought leaders in the industry when it comes to what's trending. So our taste charts, for those who are not familiar, are basically our charts that we launch every single year that basically map out what are going to be the trending flavors for the upcoming year across food and beverages. So this is obviously very important because consumers are always very excited about what are the new trends coming this year, especially kind of leading up into Expo West season here. 71% of consumers specifically are very excited about new food and beverage trends. So our time today is going to really be unlocking a lot of different things that are going on across food and beverage. So kind of understanding the methodology of our taste charts. So we make charts in every region that we do business in. Kerry's a global company. Today, we're going to be reviewing the American United States charts, but we have them in savory, salty snack, beverages, sweet, and then some bonus charts, which I'll get into in a little bit. But basically, each chart has 4 life cycle categories. So mainstream are going to be those top 10 flavors that have been the top favorites for the past 5 years. Key are those next top flavors, again, from the last 5 years. Up and coming, I always say, is kind of the sweet spot of innovation with the fastest growing flavors over the last 3 years. And emerging are going to be the fastest growing flavors in the last year. And kind of how we pull all this data together is we look at all of our external secondary resource suppliers. So think about all the Nielsen's, Data Centrals, Mintel's, Innovas, etc. Cross with some of our proprietary research methodology in-house that we have. And then we also validated it against our culinary and our DNA application teams to make sure that what we see on the screen here is kind of really reflective of what people are asking for and not just kind of being churned out by the engine, if you will. But in order to kind of understand it, the best way is to kind of really jump into it. And I'm going to start with salty snack. So salty snacks include chips, popcorn, meat snacks, puff snacks, tortilla chips, trail mixes, all of the things that would kind of fall into that traditional snacking category. So mainstream, nothing should surprise you here, kind of all of your classic bags of chips. And you'll also see some sweet things like milk chocolate due to the trail mix category that influences here. But moving on to key, you start to see a little bit more nuanced here with some and categories. So sour cream and onion, sweet and salty, salt and vinegar, as well as some cheese nuances, the Parmesan, the nacho, etc. But up and coming, kind of where the really sweet spot of cool things right now, I would say sweet heat is kind of the big takeaway right now. Obviously, hot honey has had a tremendous growth over the past 3 years. Sweet heat can kind of come in a lot of different varieties, but consumers kind of really look for that dichotomy of flavors. I'd also say things that taste like other things, specifically in the salty snack category, are extremely popular. So here you kind of see that Nashville hot popping up. You have the everything bagel. You have the taco seasoning. Lots of different nuances here. The pizza as well. So things that taste like other meals on a chip is obviously very, very popular. And then I think just holistically, hot and spicy. Fiery hot is specifically called out here. You got the buffalo, you got the chipotle called out. Even the wasabi, the habanero, anything that brings heat continues to win with consumers in this space. The last one, emerging, is going to be those fastest growing the last year. So some things in here, dill pickle. I think we are head over heels into the dill pickle era as we speak. I also think kind of the chamoy, the spicy lime influences, lots of new launches with that. Mexican street corn slash kind of elote, very, very prominent Korean barbecue as well. And then again, more of kind of those things that taste like other things, the loaded baked potato called out here, jalapeno popper. So the way in which appetizers and kind of party foods, if you will, indulgent experiences continues to kind of translate into here. But new this year for those who are returning, this is kind of a new cut that we're experimenting with. But basically, those charts that I just showed are really, really great. But, what does this mean if I'm only working on pretzels? Or what does this mean if I'm only working on crackers? So this year, we kind of mapped it out by segment within the larger category. So on the left-hand side here, you're going to see the top 15 appealing flavors for consumers across the entire salty snack chart. So all the flavors you just saw, doesn't matter where they are. These are the top appealing flavors in no particular order, and they're color coded to kind of where the mainstream key up and coming emerging buckets were. So it's really interesting to kind of see majority of the preference is kind of in that mainstream and key area, but you do see some of the up and coming and emerging flavor profiles being on the top appealing list, which kind of shows consumers' desire for more innovation in this space. But kind of interesting to call out bacon, everything bagel continuing to win, and even just something classic like salt and pepper, with consumers kind of going back to the basics. But I understand that this is an eye chart. I'm also not going to go through every single type of application here, but just kind of pulling up the salty snack one here specifically because I think a lot of time the snack mixes and trail mixes have a lot of sweet things. And then there's the savory side that can kind of confuse people. So I won't go through all of this, but again, just kind of a really good map here of what specifically is trending, has appealing index with consumers for these different applications. So I'm sure a lot of people already took a screenshot, but if there's any specific category coming up that I don't talk about, feel free to shoot me a note and I can kind of give you this here. But kind of moving on to our next chart, savory. This is going to include anything that is meat related, meals, appetizers, soups, sauces, dips, dressings. Mainstream is going to be all your classic pantry ingredients: jalapenos, garlic, tomatoes, smoked cheeses, barbecue, nothing surprising there. Same with key, again, a lot of really pantry ingredients, classic profiles: taco, teriyaki, black pepper, lemon, hickory smoke, buffalo, etc. But up and coming, we continue to see a lot, again, influence of that sweet and spicy experience. So you have the sweet and spicy chili pepper specifically called out here. You have the hot honey, again, called out here. Nashville hot remains at the top of the list as well. Hot mustard, also kind of interesting. Dill pickle, again, like I said, we are in the true dill pickle era as we see here. And then I'd also call out the influence of Asian cuisines. You have the curry called out. You have the Chinese 5-spice called out, harissa, all of these different things that kind of bring a new level of flavor complexity that are kind of globally influenced. And then emerging, again, grab bag of different things here. Fiery hot, you got the miso, you got Hawaiian barbecue, bourbon barbecue, more of those really, really intense flavors like kimchi or ancho chili. Birria is also something that we saw really explode over the pandemic, and now is kind of becoming a real popular dish in food service, but now also kind of translating into the retail space as well, same as pho. Lots of really, really fun things happening here. I think kind of coinciding with savory, a lot of times we always talk about how global cuisines are trending within savory categories. So this is kind of one of those bonus charts that I was alluding to earlier, where we mapped out specifically what global cuisines are trending. So this chart is a little bit different with the methodology because this does include all food and beverages. So obviously some of these things might be more trending with soups versus in ice cream. But it's kind of a good map to kind of let you know, when you think about global cuisines, where you should be thinking about. So mainstream here is going to be kind of all of your classic DoorDash items, the Mexican, the Italian, the Chinese, the Tex-Mex. And then key, a lot of things here we've seen really explode in the last couple of years. Thai food specifically, Japanese, Indian, I think Greek and Cuban also have had a lot of really fun innovations. New England is kind of interesting, especially with kind of the resurgence of the romanticization of New England as a vacation spot destination. So lots of new things coming out with that. But up and coming again is kind of where the real sweet spot of things are. And I would call out, Korean is definitely what we've seen a lot happening in the past couple of years, as well as Vietnamese. But there's obviously some really, really interesting things in here to dive deeper into. So, this is just a starting point, especially with the emerging. What about Moroccan cuisine? What about Peruvian cuisine? What about Brazilian cuisine? So this map is just meant to guide you as a starting point, as a jumping off point to kind of explore, okay, what do these cuisines mean for authenticity? What kind of flavors, what kind of dishes are consumers really resonating with as a thought starter? Next up, we have our sweet chart. So this is going to include candy, confectionery, cookies, desserts, bars, cereals, sweet baked goods, spoonable yogurts, all of those types of sweet goods. And mainstream, again, no surprises here. Milk chocolate, strawberry, vanilla, peanut butter. And then in key, kind of going into a lot of fruits, and then also some of the most classic, very indulgent sweet profiles that you can possibly think of. Cookies and cream, cookie dough, pumpkin spice, kind of all the things that are very, very mainstream as well. But up and coming, I think a big call out here is kind of the nostalgia trend. So you see the dulce de leche, the graham cracker, the nougat, pistachio, strawberries, and cream. So very, very rich and indulgent offerings, but also kind of old school, if you will. These aren't anything new. A lot of these will be very nostalgic for consumers, especially orange and cream. You kind of think of the orange Julius, orange sickle type experience. Same with French vanilla, marshmallow. Very, very simple, but classics are coming back. And then I'd also call it kind of the coffee house experience as well. You have the toffee, you have the spice chai, those types of things kind of coming through here, as well as some of the fruity flavors. So pina colada is kind of fun, as well as kind of blue raspberry. So color influences, very intense flavor profiles popping through kind of the more warm flavors that you typically think of in sweet. And then emerging, this one, again, kind of very similar, but the banana cream, the brown sugar, carrot cake, sweet cream, maple, dates, brown butter, all of these things are very, very simple and kind of really kind of tapping into old school baked goods and preparations. But again, same thing as I said with the up and coming, little pops of crazy innovation happening, chili pepper, so how spice is influencing sweet categories. Ube and fruit punch being utilized for color. Same with acai and matcha, bringing those bright colors into your products as well as kind of their unique flavor profiles. And I would also call out smoke coming kind of sweet smoke being called out specifically, kind of bringing new sensorial experiences to consumers that you wouldn't typically think about in sweet categories. Next up, we have hot and dairy-based beverages. So this one I always put next to sweet because there's a lot of crossover. So when you think about beverages, kind of separating it into things that are dairy and dairy alternative dairy based. So teas, coffees, nutritional beverages, shakes, hot cocos, etc. One thing I'll call out here is vanilla jumped milk chocolate this year. Big deal to dethrone chocolate. But again, kind of your classic LTOs that you see around holidays, the peppermint, the French vanilla, nothing too crazy and mainstream and key, but up and coming. You see the chocolate chip cookie, you see the cookies and cream. So kind of having more indulgent dessert experiences being translated into coffee and shakes and nutritional beverages, as well as kind of those old school flavor profiles as well. So you got the butterscotch, the amaretto, you know, lots of things here. Brown sugar as well, heavily influenced by the success of the Starbucks shaken espresso. Churro is super interesting as well, just the proliferation of that profile and its growth over the past 3 years. And then lastly, that emerging category, horchata, kind of following closely behind churro, is kind of the next Mexican influenced flavor profile, but then also lots of nostalgic flavors here, the root beer, the strawberry banana, sweet cream, salted honey, rum even is kind of interesting. So how alcohol and mocktail influences are starting to take over the hot beverage category, not so much on the refreshing size. And also just kind of elevated classics as well. So instead of vanilla, vanilla bean, etc. And this is the last kind of chart that I'll do here. So this is the water and cold based beverages. I know this is a lot of information to kind of take in, but high level overview here. And then obviously getting a copy of this afterwards will be a great roadmap for you all to kind of pull up later as you're kind of thinking of innovation. But cold and water based beverages is going to include all of your waters, soft drinks, juices, smoothies, beverage enhancers. And this also will include alcohol. So last 5 years, you know, all of the classic fruit flavors, strawberry, orange, mango, same with tea, a lot of fruit flavors here. I will specifically call out blackberry because if anyone's been paying attention, blackberry is kind of having a moment right now. Dr. Pepper launched a blackberry soda, Starbucks launched a blackberry refresher, and even kind of in more niche communities, lots of blackberry lattes are happening on TikTok. So kind of a good case study about how, you know, some of the best innovations don't necessarily have to be coming from the up and coming emerging categories, but don't forget about those mainstream and key flavors. So shout out to blackberry. But up and coming, we're continuing to see the influence of cocktails, mocktails, like I alluded to earlier. So you got the pina colada, you got the margarita called out, even bitters kind of being in this space. And then also kind of those really, really unique and kind of niche fruits that have come mainstream. So I think blood orange is a great example of, we've seen great growth of that. Guava, lychee, some of these more sophisticated citrus flavor profiles. And even green apple kind of having a resurgence of kind of a very poppy, intense flavor profile. I'd also call out the jalapeno chili. So again, the way spice is infiltrating this category kind of started with the spicy margaritas, and then obviously Starbucks again kind of did their spicy refreshers. And I know some soda brands are now starting to put out some more spicy flavors as well. But last but not least, emerging, again, more spice called out here with that habanero chili, smoke again, kind of being influenced, lots of botanicals. So you see the basil, the elderflower, the lavender that are often paired with some of the mainstream and key flavor profiles to make it, you know, fruity and fresh and a little bit more sophisticated. I think Mai Tai is kind of interesting as well. And then the orange, we're seeing lots of different nuances of orange, orange blossom, orange and cream, obviously the blood orange from before. So citrus continues to win with consumers as well. So I will share one more of these charts too, just with beverages, water and cold, because I know specifically when we think about Expo West coming up, you know, beverages are kind of like a huge space that we see a lot of innovation in. So again, kind of want to just show where all of those flavors that I just went through kind of break down when it comes to all of the different types of drinks. So I won't go through all of these, but I do think it's interesting, the top 15 appealing flavors. This one is very, very driven by the mainstream and key categories. So lots of the mainstream categories are in the top 15 appealing. So while this space is typically very, very innovative, as you can see by all of the red and orange right now, consumers will always kind of gravitate back towards those top mainstream and key flavors. So that's why often we love to say, you know, familiar with the twist when you're thinking about beverage innovation. So pairing something that's trendy and new with something a lot more familiar is usually a good recipe for success when it comes to flavor innovation. So again, won't go through all this, but new pieces of information here that I wanted to share with you all. So kind of moving into the next part of our presentation here. So after we make our taste charts every year and we do them globally, there's always very key and obvious macro trends that emerge from all these different flavors. So every year we also launch our taste trends at the same time as our taste charts. So what you see here on the screen is your top 6 2025 taste trends that are influencing food and beverages at a macro level. So now I'm going to kind of tap into each of these and kind of go through them a little bit more specifically here. But first up, we have imagination infused. So what you saw on the last slide is kind of, Kerry's definition of what this means. But new this year, we asked consumers to kind of identify what they think this trend meant based on kind of the title, if you will. So consumers, when they think about imagination infused, they're thinking about experimenting with bold, unexpected flavors that turn meals and beverage experiences into adventures. And I'd say this trend is something that we see every year, and it's something that is probably the easiest trend to always identify, because this is kind of the mashup category, if you will. This is where you see all the fusion cuisines. This is where you see all the weird pairings, kind of the jaw-dropping awe factor, if you will. And I think the reason that this continues to have such legs is because, 1 in 3 global consumers are always going to be intrigued by kind of those new, unique, different flavors. And I think specifically when we think about beverage categories, 75% of consumers in North America are always looking for intense, bold flavors, especially in the last year. It's eye-catching. It's something different. It's got that shock and awe, that adventure piece of it. So some examples that I pulled here for you guys. Wild Bill's is a brand of craft sodas, and they did a collab with Ring Pop. So again, kind of a very nostalgic, sugary, forward, intense flavor profile collab. And this kind of is a fruity fiesta, blackberries, raspberries, and elderberries. So lots of different fruit flavors coming through. But that Ring Pop kind of connotation really draws consumers in. I'd also call out the Doritos After Dark restaurant, which I believe is in the basketball arena in LA. They have a whole menu of Dorito-influenced beverages and foods right now. So this one specifically is the Flamin' Hot Cool Ranch Cali Roll. So yes, you read that right, a California roll that is coated in kind of the Doritos Cool Ranch Flamin' Hot chip. So very, very out there, very like, whoa, who's eating this? Another one that are kind of funky and cool. Our friends at Good Pop did a collab with Ore-Ida. So they did the fudge and vanilla fry pop this past summer. And I think everyone can kind of relate to, dipping French fries into milkshakes. So they kind of translated that experience into their frozen novelties. And I think it's also really, really unique because Good Pop has such a connotation of being a better for you option. And even if you are that type of brand, not being afraid to kind of do collabs like this and have these untraditional flavors, and kind of, people don't really think of French fries and healthy ice cream going together, but this was really, really cool and well executed. The last one I'll call out here is Cup Noodles, OG brand here, still getting adventurous, and they did a campfire s'more flavored ramen noodle. So obviously LTO, just for kind of the what on earth is this factor, limited edition, but consumers will go out and try it and kind of drive volume just from the sheer like, I need to understand what this tastes like factor. Next up, we have fun with functional. So kind of, again, what consumers say about this one. And it's all about kind of looking for foods and beverages that make their personal wellness journey easier to stick to. So I think there are a lot of different wellness trends going on out there. There's a lot of different ingredients that are trending that are, being put into food and beverages that essentially at the end of the day are just supporting different health and need states, and kind of understanding where their specific consumers are at in their different health journeys. And then of course, at the end of the day, everything needs to taste good. If you're going to have a functional product, it needs to deliver on taste. Otherwise consumers won't pick it up again. So this one, again, consumers are all about, being more proactive with their health. We're seeing that shift over the last 10 years, being more optimistic about their health and trying to include more healthier options in the food and drinks that they're already eating versus kind of supplementing them with supplements. So there's kind of those two different consumer groups, those who really are into supplements and want to get their nutrition from those types of products, and then people who are looking for kind of those functionality in their everyday food and beverages in unique ways. And I think this continues to be important just with the rise of different dietary restrictions and health conditions. I think that stat there on the bottom says, 3 in 4 consumers have had experienced one health condition in the last 5 years. And that's a really, really significant number. And I also think, beyond physical health, the way in which mental health is also really important with innovation. So some examples of this, I think that Rainbow Drip mood boosting energy drink. We've seen a lot of kind of mood boosting products launching as of late. This one has 90 milligrams of L-Dopa, and also it has some organic caffeine in it as well to support you through any life quest that it throws your way. Kind of fun branding there with the smiley faces on it to really deliver that this is supposed to be a mood boosting beverage. But some other examples, hot button topics, if you will. I think Vital Pursuit coming out with their weight management meals. And this is a whole line of frozen foods that are designed to support those who are on a GLP-1 journey. So this means, right portions, high protein, making sure they're enriched with the nutrients that these people may be missing out on when they're on GLP-1 drugs. I also know that Smoothie King in the food service space also came out with a line of smoothies saying on pack, supporting GLP-1 consumers. So I think we'll see a lot of this type of conversation happening, especially at Expo West coming up. And also kind of a quick plug for Kerry as well. Next week, we do have a webinar on GLP-1 consumers as well. So feel free to look that one up, or I can include information for Adrian to send out, but definitely a lot of conversations happening in that space. But also kind of throwing it back to functionality in the plant-based sense. Teton's Water Ranch with their Burger Buddies. So this is a new line they launched a few months ago. So this has 100% grass-fed beef, but also enriched with mushrooms, carrots, and butternut squash. So finding ways to have holistic foods into their patties, specifically designed for children. And then Chroma here has a cool product, chicken bone broth super ramen. So obviously the broth being made with bone broth, which has a lot more nutrients in it than a traditional just regular broth. And then this also has some turmeric collagen in it as well, which has lots of other functional health benefits for immune health, skin and bone, and hair as well. So some different examples of the way in which functional foods are continuing to dominate innovation. So this is the last bonus chart that I alluded to earlier. So this one also has a lot to kind of digest on it. So again, good to have this deck and to pull it up later. But I think ingredients is kind of where we summarized all the different ways, functional ingredients, alternative ingredients, kind of the positionings, the sensory, so all the other things that we really wanted to talk about with our customers. But, we didn't know how to kind of frame it into our taste charts format. So we made it this way. So this one, again, kind of different from all the other charts. This is food and beverages. But this is kind of categorized into the functional, positioning, alternative, sensory, and there's no correlation between them. But I think for functional ingredients, we always get asked, what's the next functional ingredient? What is continuing to kind of fuel a lot of conversations? So a lot of things here probably don't surprise you, but that's a good thing. What's longstanding versus what's emerging. I think we'll see a lot, again, of mushrooms. Mushrooms continue to have a lot of traction, as well as kind of clean energy sources. So you see the green coffee extracts, green tea extracts. I think the pre, pro, and post-biotic movement will continue to have a lot of legs when we talk about gut health, and also as consumers start to understand kind of the correlation between your gut health and your mental health and your overall health. And apple cider vinegar, of course, ashwagandha, collagen, a lot of these long-standing things that consumers are really familiar with will continue to kind of win just because consumers have a pretty good education on what these things have to offer. And it's, again, familiar for people on pack. For positioning, this is kind of the diet styles, if you will. So, the claims on pack, all the classics up there aren't really going anywhere. Gluten-free, no additive preservatives, non-GMO, organic, plant-based, etc. I will say, seeing the sugar-free, no sugar added one is emerging, as well as kind of that digestive health, the gut-friendly call-outs also emerging. And new this year, anti-aging. aging well. So seeing a lot more products being targeted towards people who are getting older, versus kind of only approaching it from a proactive standpoint, but addressing, again, consumers where they're at in their current stage of life, and kind of helping people get there in a healthier way. I'd also throw in the sustainability positionings that are in here as well, because I think sustainability, and kind of better for you, better for planet, better for society is also going to continue to be a big thing that we see. Fair trade, locally sourced, sustainably sourced, anything with animal welfare, having our carbon neutral call outs. But I think we're starting to see things get a little bit more specific. So, forest protection called out specifically, upcycled obviously has been one we've seen a huge surge in the past couple of years. Water usage as well, especially with kind of what's happened out in California and the way in which we're going to be more conscious about our water resources. I think we'll see a lot more specific sustainable call outs come through. For alternatives, so this is kind of what are we swapping out ingredients for a more healthy version. I think the big thing we've seen in the last 12 months is kind of more these holistic ingredients coming back. So leading with honey instead of sugar, leading with cauliflower, leading with almonds and cashews and chickpeas and sweet potatoes. So a lot more holistic ingredients versus some of the more ingredients that consumers might be more weary of. And then last but not least, our sensory. And I think this one's kind of interesting when we talk about, consumers kind of seek more sensorial experiences with their food and beverages, just to make food consumption more of an experience. So preparation methods, the way in which it looks, and then also the way in which it tastes. So, having things that are caramelized or candied or pickled or smoked or wood fired, anytime you kind of have a preparation call out, it drives descriptive intrigue. So consumers automatically think, oh, this is a more premium item because, this was cold brew pressed, or this was fermented, or this was, pruned or condensed. All of these adjectives are really, really important for consumers to make sure that they're feeling like they're having a really premium food or beverage experience. And then also on the presentation side, which we kind of see more in fine dining, etc., but also starting to see some innovations that kind of execute these things. Foams, crumbles, crunches, garnishes, pearls are kind of long-standing, but I'd say sensations is one to watch. So things that make our mouth warm or cool, or have some sort of sensation that you wouldn't expect from the product that you're eating, will be something to definitely watch out for in the coming years. So back to our trends, clean and simple is up next. So this is kind of really leading off of our last trend when we talk about embracing pure natural flavors and ingredients to really connect to food and live more intentionally with the way in which food was meant to be consumed. So this kind of comes through the manifestations of having, again, that small and recognizable ingredient list. Consumers are focusing on nutritional facts panel, and, at the end of the day, just championing that kitchen pantry for more natural, simple, sustainable products that we keep in our shelves. I think, a lot of consumers are now associating with having natural foods, clean foods is the best way to ensure a healthy diet. So cutting out a lot of the no-nos, and just in general, consumers in America say they need to eat healthier. So what are we doing as food providers to make sure that we're kind of meeting that demand of consumers wanting to have better foods to put into their bodies? So some examples here, obviously Sweetgreen is a food service, but I think it was in 2023, they came out and said they're going to stop using seed oils in response to kind of consumer concerns about health, and in line with their commitment to always having high quality ingredients. But in January, they really led with this. If anyone went to Sweetgreen and looked on their menu boards or was online ordering online, big bold letters, no seed oil, specifically in their ranch products, they were really pushing in January. And that's obviously due to kind of the conversations that have been having with new policy changes in America, with new nutrition leaders on kind of the war on seed oils, if you will. So we'll probably see a lot more companies kind of falling in line with that. And also kind of similar in food service, for an example, we're seeing people kind of switching back to fat tallow, full beef fat tallow to fry their products in, going back to MSG, going back to kind of these holistic ways in which it's clean and simple because it's using holistic ingredients. But some retail examples that I have here, the Nata Malto, this Hawaiian style barbecue sauce is tomato free. So this person who had this brand obviously had some allergies and restrictions of their own. So they didn't see any solution out there was kind of meeting their needs on having a tomato free condiments. So they made their own. So they have a whole line of different tomato free sauces. I also would call out this Senza little pastina brand. So this is a gluten-free version of kind of the Italian pastina shape that has actually gotten a lot of popularity in the past year. Obviously been a mainstay in a lot of people's diets, very nostalgic, kind of having that Italian penicillin soup, if you will. But people are kind of rediscovering the joys of kind of these little pasta shapes. So this brand is kind of interesting, kind of seeing that gap and kind of actioning on it with the gluten-free version. And then Lily here, oops, we forgot to update the caption here, but this is a yuzu functional refresher, low sugar, no added anything, lots of really clean ingredients in this one. We'll make sure to update that one and make sure you have the right version of it. But this one, pretty simple to explain in terms of what consumers are looking for. Next up, we have a chain reaction. So this one kind of covers a lot of different macro topics that we have, and it's all about consumers kind of adapting their palate and purchasing power for sustainable taste for a better tomorrow. So there's a lot of different things to unpack with this one, whether it's eco-consciousness, better for the planet, sustainability, whether it's about supply chain disruptions. I'm sure a lot of people have experienced those. Shortages of different ingredients, high prices of different ingredients. So how do we evolve and make sure that we have what we need to make the high quality product that our consumers are expecting? Shifting demands, wanting brands that have a voice and stand for something, whether it's representing who they are as a company or kind of uplifting more marginalized communities and making sure that their voice is heard in this industry. And also kind of the use of AI would also fall under this one, and the way in which AI is being utilized for innovation and problem solving and demand forecasting. There's a lot going on when we talk about chain reaction. So some examples here that I have, and this first one kind of alludes to the upcycled movement we talked about earlier, and also just in general, consumers being a little bit more mindful of their food waste and kind of reducing food waste in the last 12 months. This Odds and Ends brand that has a collab with Misfit Markets are these dark chocolate covered pretzel pieces. So a lot of times in any industry, there's always breakage on the line. And a lot of times those broken pieces are discarded because they're not as aesthetically pleasing as the whole pretzel would be or the whole chip would be or whatever it may be. So these people packaged up all of those pieces that were broken off and broken, and they promote that it's actually better because you get more chocolate to pretzel ratio, and they taste exactly the same, it's just the broken pieces. And how do we make sure we're not just throwing it away just because it doesn't look perfect? And so definitely the Upcycled Food Association has many brands under their remit that are doing this mission wholeheartedly. Another one we have here is the Leo Gelato, which is all about, gelato made from fresh ingredients, made from local vendors on the central coast of California. So getting very specific, the central coast of California, not just California, but getting even more hyper regional, specifically where this product is made, uplifting kind of the farmers and those local vendors that are including the ingredients. This one specifically is the Ali berry cheesecake gelato. I'd never heard of that fruit, but apparently it exists, and they are uplifting it and making it into this delicious gelato packaging. And you can also see kind of how they have their packaging too. Very unique, very on trend, very beautiful, and just kind of shows that it's a more premium product. Hickory Nut Gap meats. I think this one was kind of interesting. So this is regeneratively raised 100% grass-fed beef. And obviously regenerative agriculture is a huge topic of conversation, to make sure we're improving the soil health, reducing carbon emissions, a lot of different benefits of this. But specifically calling out that this is smash burger beef. So you can make that smash burger experience at home, because obviously you need a certain percentage of fat to kind of get that thin, crispy experience that you would get in a restaurant. And then last but not least, this pizza brand is Def and Coda family-owned company that's recreating Asian-inspired Neapolitan pizzas. So this one was miso eggplant, but really unique story here of kind of the Def and Coda communities. I know the person who started this brand, they tried to get a job out at local restaurants and were continuously denied because they were deaf. So they took it upon themselves to lift up their own story and their own families and make these pizzas that were really unique and special to them. So a really great brand story here, talking about people. Next one is Roots Redefined. So this one is kind of a way in which we kind of recreate traditional, authentic restaurant quality flavors at home in really unique ways. So this is kind of mimicking traditional recipes and prep methods, or this is, we've seen the rise of kind of the specialty kitchen tools and cookbooks and celebrity collabs and restaurant collabs into retail, and just the way in which discovery and tradition kind of come together. Because I think I've had this conversation a lot, and maybe probably on the same webinar last year, but what is authentic? That definition, it has a lot of slack these days, just because as a culture, we are such a melting pot. So, what is authentic to you might not be authentic to somebody else, but that's okay. And embracing kind of what that means in products that are just really inspiring to those who are putting it out there. So some fun examples here. Noosh, I actually saw at a Naturally event being highlighted, but this is an Insta matzo ball soup. So the ultimate comfort in a cup, just add water and microwave. Obviously, we have seen ramen and regular soups for decades, for centuries almost. So kind of bringing this dish to the convenience space is really special and unique and different. Cincy sauce. So this one is Italian inspired, but basically just a pepperoncini sauce for just about everything. Just kind of a really unique condiment. I also kind of see a nod towards the way in which kind of chopped Italian grinder sandwiches went viral, and just how pepperoncinis were being used a lot online for different recipes. So this person just having a love for it, bottling it up and kind of having a unique condiment to hit the market. We also have Mimi Chang's chicken parm dumplings. So Mimi Chang's is a restaurant in New York City, so they came out with a line of retail products. I thought this one was interesting because it's chicken parm. You obviously wouldn't think of a dumpling having kind of an Italian flavor profile with chicken and tomato sauce, basil, mozz, parm, etc. But kind of a cool skew along with their kind of more traditional products that they have here. And then the Y'all company has a line of kind of Southern inspired sauces. So this one's kind of funny, the Tennessee Jezebel sauce. So this is orange marmalade, tangy whole grain mustard, horseradish. So something that has a lot of different Southern influences and kind of a fun way to kind of kick up different barbecue experiences. Last but not least, our last one that I'm going to go through today is Little Luxuries. So this one, again, is probably something that we're very familiar with. So this is all about seeking out comforting, indulgent flavors, just to kind of relieve yourself of daily stress, or just to kind of treat yourself, if you will. So this is all about kind of giving in to all of your indulgent cravings, having that little treat, having growth in different fantasy, nostalgic, fruity, floral flavors, multi-sensorial experiences, and just kind of all about indulgence and kind of escapism, and just really just, something fun and different and not feeling bad about it. And I think kind of the little sweet treat era that we see online continues to be really prominent. Consumers look to boost their mood with foods and beverages. So this is a way you can have a lot of fun and know that consumers are always looking for something that's going to kind of itch their desire to have something indulgent. So HEB, biscuits and gravy flavored potato chips, the classic breakfast dish, but in a chip format, really indulgent, really fun, just something different to try and pick up. And, has a lot of the buttermilk and savory sausage flavors built into it. The Bumpin' Blends did a collab with Barbie and made smoothie cubes. So each bag made about 2 to 4 smoothies based on how big you wanted your smoothie to be. But these also had collagen, vitamin C, and protein in them. But again, that Barbie collab, really, really fun. Taco Bell also coming out with their gelato earlier this year. So it was a Mountain Dew Baja Blast flavored gelato that they were selling in stores. So just a different format of kind of the cult favorite soda. And then Tasties is a new kind of frozen appetizer brand, just kind of leading into indulgent appetizers in the frozen aisle. So these ones were spinach, artichoke, mozzarella bites, just really bold flavors, fun flavor, classic bar food, but kind of conveniently for you at home. So kind of in summary here, when we did this research, we kind of mapped out, okay, so these things are trending currently, kind of where are they at in terms of the consensus with consumers. So this is kind of where they currently at, but we predict that we're going to see these trends only continue to grow in their maturity. So all of these ones in the next couple of years is kind of grow about 12 to 15%. So I think when we think about what's trending, what about next year, what about the year after that, and even looking back what was on the list of trends last year, realistically things don't change that drastically. So I think kind of sticking to these 6 macro trends are a good indicator for success in terms of where you should focus, and obviously based on your product, based on your consumers, you kind of narrow it down which one of these kind of means the most to consumers. But in general, just kind of a good gut check here to show you that these things will continue to be important right now. They were important last year and they'll probably be important next year as well in terms of mainstream acceptance. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions. Let me pop open the chat here. But Adrian, if you've been keeping an eye and want to start calling on people.
I actually don't have any questions lined up, but would love to hear from our audience. So does anyone want to raise their hand, ask their question live? Be brave.
I see Lisa sent me a direct one.
Okay.
So said, can you comment on black garlic? It fits many of the taste trends you address, but it's not on your chart. So as an ingredient company, black garlic actually comes up a lot. And black garlic, as trendy as it is, it's hard to source. So that's why we don't see it as broadly as maybe the trends would indicate that we would. It's strictly the sourcing of it. It's really difficult ingredient. It's an expensive ingredient. So Lisa, we also are locked in on black garlic. We get a lot of asks for it, but yeah, the sourcing problem is kind of the restriction there. Melissa asks, can we define clean? And what does this mean for products? And I think clean and clean label is a very interesting conversation because there is no true industry-wide definition of what that means. And that's why it's so important that you're doing research on your consumers and understanding what does clean mean to them. Because, some people might think, full cane sugar sodas are clean, but some people might think some of the new probiotic lower sugar sodas are clean. So I think, clean label, we had a webinar a few years ago that actually addressed this conversation specifically. It's hard to nail down, and we can't emphasize enough how important it is to have those conversations with your consumers and understand your consumers to make sure you're understanding where they're at in their clean journey, and how that translates for them. Next one. How difficult would it be to obtain a marinade seasoning mix that represents accurately the birria flavor, given that it is such a long process and flavors can be so specific to be able to mass produce in a dry product? So I'm actually really glad you asked this question because this is actually something that our company really, really strives to nail. So culinary authenticity and culinary gold standards have to be the base of all flavor and seasoning work. So as a good case study for birria. We have a chef that I work with really, really closely. He made birria, the gold standard kind of classic recipe in the way that it was always intended, you know, with the goat slow cooked, all the different spices, all the different ways in which it's traditionally made. And also with that caveat, you also have to kind of nail down, okay, which version of authentic birria do you want to nail down? Because there's obviously different ways in which birria is executed throughout Latin America and Mexico. But back to our case study, you know, he made the gold standard version of it, and then you use your sensory and analytical teams to then dissect the different components of what makes that unique. And, you know, through flavor creation, you can achieve that through different savory enhancement tools, through different cooking method flavors. So, you know, smoke and grill, or having the roast dripping flavors, you know, emulating all of those different nuances. You basically just have to dissect it and then rebuild it. So there definitely is a way to do it. So definitely, if you want to learn more about that, reach out to us, because we have definitely done that before. But it's all about culinary authenticity before kind of using flavor work to build up whatever you're trying to achieve. Beauty within, that's a really great question. That's also a huge trend that we're going to be seeing. You know, skin health, I think, is kind of a huge thing, especially for younger audience. So Kerry also did research on proactive health need states for consumers by generation. So that's the thing that's interesting to you. Definitely reach out. But skin health, especially for kind of the Gen Alpha, Gen Z audiences, is of utmost importance, because you need to take care of it when you're young. Because once it kind of degrades, you can't really go backwards. So a lot of innovation happening in this space for younger consumers. And I think, again, younger consumers want to eat products that they normally do. If they can avoid taking a pill or chewing a gummy, definitely they would prefer to have it naturally in their foods. But chocolates, different types of gummies, all those different types of snacky formats that are little sweet treats are a great way to kind of impart functionality for younger consumers specifically. What about premium frozen cookie dough, brown buddy topping? Absolutely. I think when you think about um, sweet treats right now, frozen categories, kind of baked goods, kind of those real bakery classics and kind of elevated classics are the thing right now. So I think brown butter, toffee, caramel, salted anything is very, very popular right now. Vanilla bean, all of those really, really rich but simple flavor profiles are super, super familiar for customers, and are really an easy avenue to execute a really, really classic and delicious product. So definitely we'll continue to see more with that. Smoked sea salt also sounds really, really delicious. Looking here more. Okay, I think questions are slowing down here, but I think in summary, Kerry, we have an entire insights department in-house. I'm a customer-facing marketer, so it's kind of my job to then relay whatever insights we have to our relevant audiences. But like I alluded to, Taste Charts just launched in January. This happens annually every single year, that kind of outlines all of our flavors and trends. We are working a lot in the GLP-1 space, so we have a lot of webinars coming up on GLP-1. Proactive health is a huge thing. So we've done a huge study on proactive health. So lots of different really unique thought pieces are coming out that are definitely accessible to all of you as part of our partnership here in the Naturally Network. So definitely reach out on any topic if you have any sort of interest. Adrian is going to send out my email, my LinkedIn, all of those types of things. But I also will be at Expo West coming up in a few weeks here. So I would love to close out with kind of our hype video for our Expo West booth. It'll tell you what we got going on, where our booth is at, and kind of what our presentation is going to be at Expo West, because our presentation, kind of teeing up some of our other marketers, kind of touches on taste trends matched with what consumers think is craveable, and a piece of research that we did call our craveability research. So I want to thank you all for your time, and I'm going to flip over to this video to kind of close us out. But Adrian, any last comments for you?
No, I appreciate this presentation. Thank you so much again, Amy, for your time. I did drop some helpful links about some of the activities that are happening at Expo West with the Naturally Network. And yes, please take a look there. But I will also share your contact information, the presentation, and a recording of this webinar following the call later today. And that's really it. So I appreciate everyone for joining us today. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for having me, everybody.